Yet another bad call. This crowd is really losing their patience.
They sure are, Chris. They need to get it together or this one's gonna get up.
Well, that's not going to help at all. These fans are going absolutely berserk.
Better snacks! Better snacks! Better snacks!
Oh, I can't believe it. 4th and 36 and they're going for it.
High snap. He handles it. Got a man open. And it's a touchdown!
Wow, that's going to silence this crowd.
Now may be a good time to thank our sponsor, Wild Bill's Jerky.
I hope not too early. I think I'm too early. Oh my God, Jeremy, you've got to stop sweating. Be cool. Hi, I'm Jeremy. Hi, I'm Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm Jasmine.
I'm very pleased to make your acquaintance, Jasmine.
Why don't we get more comfortable?
Okay. Can I get you anything? An apple? Maybe a Coke?
You're cuter than I thought.
Thank you. Are you sure?
Yeah.
It sure is nice out.
Gorgeous. So, what did you have in mind? What
I thought that we could play some checkers.
I was thinking something different.
Playing cards?
Maybe something else.
Like what?
Well, you know, it.
It?
Yeah. Don't you want to do it?
I don't really know what you're talking about. It? Okay, maybe I'm not following it. Like tag your it?
No. Why did you want to come out to the park?
I mean, I love the park, and I thought the privacy would be nice.
Yes, privacy is nice. Why do you want privacy?
For it?
Yes. And what is it?
I don't know.
Starts with the letter S.
Stratego.
Rhymes with Tyrannosaurus Rex.
S rhymes with Tyrannosaurus. For Tyrannosaurus sex?
Yes.
Sex.
Brian Sosa, Action 9 News. How does it feel to be a pedophile?
What?
Our poor innocent Jasmine here was lucky enough to participate in today's bus, sir.
But she...
What do you think? You're bringing a 17-year-old girl out in the middle of the park trying to solicit sex on who's under the legal age. What is wrong with you?
I just wanted to play checkers.
Folks, did you hear that? Checkers, really? Lose the bow tie, dude. Just give up the act. It's terrible.
Am I going to jail?
No, but you are going to be the lead story on our 6 o'clock news tonight.
I'm going to be on the news? I was going to be so mad.
Oh, great. Class! Now, class, would you look at the board? Read it. Recycling is good. If you recycle, you'll be good, alright? You'll be good because you're recycling. So recycle. Mr. Ambrose? Yes, Lemon, a question? Is roast beef recyclable? Well, what a handsome question, Lemon. Yes, I believe roast beef is recyclable. With lettuce. horseradish. On rye. Anyway, recycle. Recycle. It's good. Recycle. Roast beef. No, recycle. Oh yeah, recycle. It's good. I said recycle. Okay, I got it. No, not you, him.
Jello pudding, some pudding pops, and pudding pop.
You know, Dad, you should recycle that and stuff.
It's time to zip, zop, zoomity pop, wee!
Me.
Sophie Kerr, a prolific and popular American writer of the early 20th century, was born on the eastern shore of Maryland in 1880, and over the course of her career she published 23 novels, 500 short stories, and numerous articles in the most popular magazines of her day. She was a successful, independent woman who supported herself on her earnings. She was a voracious reader and an industrious writer who took as her subject matter everything from love and romance to cookery and cats. In the town of Denton, her childhood home still stands as a dedication and a symbol of her importance to the area. Although its appearance has changed over the years, its history still lives on with the various owners the house has accumulated since the Kerrs' departure.
First of all, the house was built somewhere between 1861 and 1865. It has been added on to, the middle part of the house is actually the oldest part of the house, and then the front part of the house and the back part of the house was added on to it in following years. It was part of a 90-acre farm that was owned by Sophie Kerr's father, and of course Sophie Kerr was born and raised in this home during that time. And this was this part of the property, which is about 2.5 acres, is all that's left of that 90-acre farm.
However, Sophie Kerr didn't take to her father's farming prowess. She took the more suitable path of literature, a path that would ultimately lead to her legacy.
A lot of the books that she wrote were about the people that lived on the Eastern Shore and in town of Denton. But a lot of her novels were, she wrote a lot of short stories for like magazines, and she wrote a lot of, she has a couple book collections of her short stories also. She did write a lot of stories, but she did also write a couple of novels that she has.
She was a very fine storyteller. She was she was very much ahead of her time. She wrote about themes that were a little risque at the time. She wrote about unwed motherhood, and she wrote about the stock market crash. She wrote about the church, and not in a very complimentary way. The Methodist Church on the Eastern Shore sort of left her a little cold. She could write just as deftly about the Eastern Shore of Maryland and its relationships amongst families and in small town life. And she could also write about cosmopolitan girls who had branched out and decided to be career women in New York City. So she was equally at home in either setting with her narratives. The stories I like the best, of course, are set on the Eastern Shore. It's as if you can tell the setting that she's talking about. I think a lot of her stories must have been set in Denton. She was very fond of Denton. She said that Courthouse Green, in fact, it's in The Sound of Petticoats, the Courthouse Green was the prettiest on the eastern shore of Maryland. And so she loved the area. She just wasn't too keen on the stuffiness and the old-fashioned Methodist morality that she encountered. She had become very urbane and decided that she liked city life better, even though she liked the countryside down here. And it was a really great setting for her novels. I can imagine that when she was living here on the Eastern Shore, I can imagine that some of her themes would have been frowned upon. There's one novel that she wrote. It's set on the Eastern Shore, and it's a story of a religious family that is abusive, and there's some bad stuff going on in the family, and there's interrelationships with other family members and other, there's sort of all related to each other. And she takes no prisoners. She is very scathing in her denunciation of hypocrites, basically. And it's very well-drawn characters, very detailed plot, completely different from the Long Island, oh, I think I'll just get dressed and go to dinner now and wear sequins and go out for cocktails with the jet set out on the East Hamptons. Totally different style, totally different voice in some ways in her Eastern Shore-based novels. Seems like when she's writing about the Eastern Shore, she's after somebody. She's going to make it clear that she's got an axe to grind. She was very well known in her time, and she wrote for a lot of magazines. She was writing for the Saturday Evening Post when Steinbeck and Fitzgerald and Hemingway were all writing for the Saturday Evening Post. She, I think, because she wrote to entertain. She wasn't trying to be a literary author. She kind of got overlooked as a major writer, but she was very prolific. Honestly, I don't know how she came up with the plots that she came up with. She must have been writing constantly. And they're very good reads. They're good reads even now, even though they're set in the past, just as Fitzgerald or Hemingway, their novels are set in the 19-teens, 1920s, 1930s. So were hers. And she wrote about contemporary issues, but she was just a fantastic writer. Very, very knowledgeable, very, very smart lady. She just never reached that stature. Both of these magazines are the Detroit Free Press, and they're advertising the Sunday Novel, and she's on the front cover with her stories, and they were serialized novels that became hardback novels. The Beautiful Woman is also a novel, and it was featured in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and you can tell that there's a World War I theme, and it's dated 1941. Beautifully illustrated story of hers, Pussycat, and it was 1940s. Michael's Girl is also another novel that was featured in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it is also a hardback novel. But it's front and center on both of these serialized novels in the Detroit Free Press and the Philadelphia Inquirer. They were inserts in the newspaper that helped sell the newspaper. She was so well known as a person who wrote about food that she is considered an expert or a connoisseur of food, and so she helps to sell wine in this advertisement.
She became very wealthy, of course, writing her books, and she lived most of the time in New York, and she only really came back to Denton to live in the house when she wanted to get away from New York and when she wanted to write some more. After her death, the home was then sold to various owners. There is one room upstairs, which we call the tub room, and that is an old time, that's in the oldest part of the house, and it was the old time tub. It's made out of wood with a metal surface inside. And at one time it had a pump, and you would pump the water into the tub, and that was probably their first tub that they had in the house back probably in the 1860s, 70s, or so on. So I call that the tub room. That probably is a big piece of history that is still in the house today. There's 6 bedrooms that you could use as bedrooms, and then it has a living room, a dining room, a family room. The family room is kind of neat because it was a back porch at one time and a patio. It's got a brick floor, which would have been the patio outside. And then the walls inside the family room are clapboard, which sort of shows you that that was an outside. Also, it has a wood ceiling on it, which you would not find in a home. Usually that would be more of like a porch. The barn is the original barn, which has been converted into a garage now. It does have inside the barn, you can see the wooden pegs that it was put together with the beams, and it has the rough-hewn beams inside. So that's how they built barns back in that time period. There is a corn crib right beside it, which is the original corn crib where they stored a lot of the corn for the animals that they fed.
Before her transition from her childhood home to her residence in New York, Sophie Kerr earned a bachelor's degree in literature from Hood College and a master's degree from the University of Vermont. In her later years, she became close with the Literary Arts Department at Washington College, where she received an honorary degree alongside of Eleanor Roosevelt. In 1965, she bequeathed to Washington College a $578,000 endowment, which specified that the earnings be used for scholarships and books and to bring visiting writers and scholars to campus. The rest is a wonderfully vibrant intellectual culture where the literary arts thrive. Sophie Kerr's decision to dedicate the fortune she made as a writer to nurturing and encouraging young writers at Washington College is especially notable for the instruction in her will that half the annual earnings of the endowment be given as a literary prize. The Sophie Kerr Prize is awarded each year to the graduating senior who has the best ability and promise for the future fulfillment in the field of literary endeavor. The first Sophie Kerr Prize of $9,000 was given in 1969. Valued at $58,274 in 2012, it is the nation's largest literary prize awarded solely to undergraduate students. It is among the largest in the world, exceeding both Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award. Since inception, the prize endowment has awarded more than $1.4 million.
It's a very small pool of graduates that create a portfolio to be eligible for the prize. There's only about, if there's a dozen, I'd be surprised. I know a couple of years ago a sociology major won the prize because he pulled together a portfolio of his college writings. I mean, it's a huge prize with no strings attached. You don't have to go on to write a novel. You don't have to go on to a graduate school. It's just awarded to the person with the best portfolio.
Even though Sophie Kerr lives on through her prize, it stemmed from her writing and literary impact, or it was molded by an area she held dear to her heart. Although her books are no longer in print, they are still being enjoyed today.
It's basic storytelling. It's good storytelling, but she's not going for symbols. She's not going for grand themes. She's not going for great insights into human nature. Although, if you read her novels, you're amazed at her facility for understanding human nature. You don't expect to find that in her novels. You expect to find very light, fluffy stuff. There's a lot more for the average reader to identify with without having to slog through symbols and deep meanings the way you have to with Great Gatsby. Can I make a confession? I'd rather read a Sophie Kerr novel than a Fitzgerald novel any day of the week. That's how good a writer she is. She's just a good page turner.
Bye.